Sam had always craved the solitude of the wilderness. The Pacific Crest Trail, with its endless stretches of rugged beauty, had been calling their name for years. With a stable job as a graphic designer and a supportive partner, Alex, Sam finally carved out 2 weeks for the adventure. Alex had helped pack the car, meticulously organizing gear, and gave Sam a tight hug at the trailhead, promising to wait at the end. The plan was straightforward. Park the car at the end of a challenging section, hitch a ride to the start, and hike back over 10 days. The first few days were a dream. Towering Douglas firs loomed overhead, their branches swaying gently, while winding paths snaked through the wilderness. The silence felt like a balm for Sam's soul, broken only by the crunch of pine needles underfoot. They marveled at the shifting landscapes. Dense forests gave way to sunlit meadows bursting with wildflowers, and one morning, they paused to watch a family of deer grazing peacefully at dawn, their silhouettes framed by the rising sun. But on the third night, that peace fractured. Sam woke with a start, a gut feeling gnawing at their insides like a persistent itch. The tent seemed undisturbed, its nylon walls still taut, but something felt wrong. Rifle in hand, they unzipped the flap and scanned the campsite with a flashlight, its beams slicing through the dark. Nothing moved. Back inside, they checked their pack. Their wallet was gone. Cash, cards, ID vanished into the night. Sam tore through their gear, heart pounding like a drum, but it was nowhere. They tried to convince themselves it was misplaced, maybe dropped at a stream crossing earlier. But the doubt lingered, heavy and unshakable. The next few days brought more losses. A lighter, a knife with a worn handle, a few granola bars still in their wrappers. Each missing item chipped away at Sam's calm, leaving jagged edges of unease. Someone was stealing from them, creeping into their camp while they slept, silent as a shadow. They started double-checking their gear obsessively, even tying a twig to the tent zipper as a crude alarm, but the thefts persisted. The trail's isolation, once a comforting embrace, turned suffocating, pressing in from all sides. With no cell signal, Sam was trapped, too far to retreat, too close to stumble forward blindly. The strain began to twist their mind. Shadows darted at the corners of their vision, fleeting and taunting, while whispers seemed to drift on the wind, indistinct, yet chilling. One afternoon, Sam stepped into what felt like a puddle, the splash sharp in their ears, cold water soaking their sock. They froze, staring down. The ground was dry, cracked earth mocking their senses. Later, they glimpsed a figure among the trees, motionless and watching, but a blink dissolved it into branches. The hallucinations struck hard, stark reminders of their unraveling grip on reality. Nights became a torment. Sam tied the tent shut with trembling hands, rifle clutched close, but sleep remained a distant stranger. One night, footsteps circled the campsite, slow, deliberate, crunching leaves with intent. Sam gripped the rifle, breath shallow and ragged, but fear rooted them to the spot. Their heartbeat thundered in the silence, a frantic rhythm against the stillness. The sound faded, leaving a lingering dread that gnawed at their sanity like a relentless predator. With just over a day left, Sam made a desperate call: hike through the night to reach the car. As dusk fell, painting the sky in hues of orange and gray, they pressed on, flashlight in one hand, rifle in the other. The trail became a gauntlet of shadows, every rustle a jolt to their frayed nerves. Navigating in the dark was treacherous. Gnarled roots and jagged rocks seemed to rise up, conspiring to trip them. Exhaustion dragged at their limbs, but fear fueled their steps. Then, behind them, footsteps, distinct, purposeful, echoing in the night. Sam spun, light catching a figure slipping behind a tree. Heart hammering, they aimed the rifle and shouted, "Show yourself!" The figure emerged, a man, wild and unkempt, wearing only tattered shorts Sam recognized as their own, stolen days ago. His skin was a map of scratches, face shrouded in tangled hair. He stepped forward, eyes glinting in the beam, heedless of the rifle. "Stop!" Sam yelled, voice cracking. The man paused, head tilting with eerie curiosity. Panic surged, and Sam fired a warning shot into the dirt. The man flinched, then bolted back into the woods, swallowed by the darkness. Trembling, Sam sprinted the final stretch to their car, locking the doors with a frantic twist and dialing the police. The authorities arrived, flashlights bobbing, took a terse statement, and urged Sam to leave immediately. They didn't hesitate. As they drove away, the weight of the ordeal pressed down, a mix of relief and lingering terror that clung like damp clothes. Back home, Alex held them tight, listening as the harrowing tale spilled out in shaky bursts. Sam hasn't returned to the trail since. The thought of hiking alone sends a shiver through them, a cold echo of those nights. The Pacific Crest Trail, once a symbol of freedom and peace, now looms in their memory as a place of beauty and peril, a haunting reminder that solitude can hide a multitude of dangers waiting in the shadows. James had always been drawn to the wilderness. When his parents handed him the keys to his childhood home, an old brick house nestled in a woodsy neighborhood, he felt a surge of nostalgia. The house, a family heirloom passed down from his grandparents, stood out with its weathered bricks in an area where such homes were rare. He and his girlfriend Sarah moved in during their mid-20s, embracing the isolation of their lot, which bordered a massive forest on two sides. As a kid, James had roamed those woods with his brothers, never mapping its entirety despite countless adventures. The vastness never intimidated him. It thrilled him. It was a snowy Sunday morning in 2012, or perhaps 2013. The years blurred together, when the first strange incident occurred. James stepped outside to his truck for his weekly coffee run, a ritual he cherished. As he brushed snow off the windshield, he noticed a trail of footprints etched in the fresh powder. They stretched from the woods, across the yard, to the driver's side door of his truck, then doubled back into the trees, his brow furrowed. Sarah hadn't been out, and the prints bypassed the house entirely. No peeking through windows, no detour to the door. Just the car. He asked Sarah about it later, but she was as baffled as he was. Shrugging, he dismissed it as a fluke, maybe a lost hiker or a bold animal. Time rolled on, and the oddity faded into memory. By 2015, James and Sarah were engaged, their lives comfortably rooted in the brick house. That winter, though, the footprints returned with a vengeance. One morning, James stepped outside and froze. The yard was a chaotic mess of prints, circling the house, crisscrossing the driveway, clustering near the windows. His stomach churned as he followed one trail to the shed. The lock was intact, but inside, tools were missing. A hammer, a wrench, a saw. Sarah's eyes widened when he told her. They called his dad, who'd lived there for decades without issue. "Arm yourself and check it out," he advised. James grabbed his rifle, heart pounding, and traced the prints into the woods. The trail split suddenly, veering in opposite directions. One person, two. The uncertainty gnawed at him. As dusk fell, he retreated, unease settling in his bones. The police came, but with no clear crime beyond trespassing. They left empty-handed. Fresh snow buried the evidence overnight, and for a while, calm returned. James and Sarah pushed the incidents aside, focusing on their engagement and future. Years passed uneventfully, until January of this year. It started again with a vengeance. James woke to find the yard blanketed in footprints, more brazen than ever. The shed had been hit again, this time stripped of pricier tools. Sarah broke down, her voice trembling as she asked if they'd ever be free of this. Fury and fear mingled in James's chest. He called his friend Mark, a seasoned hunter, for backup. Mark arrived that afternoon, thermal scope in tow, ready to track the intruders. "We'll figure this out," he said, clapping James on the shoulder. Bundled against the cold, they ventured into the woods, rifles slung over their shoulders. The footprints led them deeper than James had ever gone as a kid. The trail twisted, doubled back, and split repeatedly, as if mocking their pursuit. Darkness crept in, but Mark's scope kept them on course. Then, abruptly, Mark halted, arm barring James's chest. Peering through the scope, James's breath caught. 4 figures huddled in the snow, too large, too small. Naked despite the biting cold, they moved erratically, gnawing at something unidentifiable. The larger ones hoisted the smaller ones onto their shoulders and vanished into the trees. James and Mark stumbled back, hearts racing, and fled home. The police searched the next day, but snow had obscured the tracks, and they found nothing. "Probably just kids messing around," an officer muttered, unconvinced. James and Sarah weren't buying it. Those figures weren't pranksters. They were something else, something wrong. Now, with winter looming, tension grips their home. They've talked about moving, but the house ties James to his past, and the process feels daunting. He started fencing off the yard from the woods, a flimsy shield against the unknown. Why their house? What do those things want? Friends offer theories. Some say it's harmless, others warn of danger, but no one knows. The mystery festers, a quiet terror James can't shake, whispering from the trees. Tom had been logging in the Pacific Northwest for over a decade. He knew the forests like the back of his hand, the towering pines, the damp earth underfoot, the way the mist clung to the valleys at dawn. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened on that remote mountain job site. The company had sent him, along with his colleagues Jack and Mike, to a desolate stretch high up in the Cascades. It took 3 weeks just to carve a road wide enough for their trucks and equipment. By the time they arrived, the forest loomed around them, dense and silent, the kind of quiet that pressed against your ears. They were 10 days into the job when the strange occurrences began. It started with the radio. Tom and Mike were working opposite ends of the site when faint voices crackled through the static. At first, they were muffled murmurs. Tom fiddled with the dial, but the voices followed, persistent and unsettling. "You hear that?" Mike's voice cut through the radio, tense. "Yeah, probably just interference," Tom replied. But it wasn't. Each day, the voices grew clearer, though never fully intelligible. Snippets of conversation drifted through, low, casual tones discussing mundane things like weather or tools. Yet something about the cadence felt wrong, like a conversation overheard in a dream. Then Mike stumbled upon something that turned their unease into dread. Hidden just off the trail, tucked between 2 massive cedars, was an old cabin. Its wood was rotting, the roof sagging, but inside, signs of recent life chilled them. A sleeping bag lay crumpled in the corner, still warm. Beside it, a duffel bag spilled open. Children's clothing. Small shirts, tiny shoes, mingled with duct tape, rope, and a stack of Polaroids showing a fresh meal. Tom's stomach twisted. "We need to leave," Mike said, his voice tight. But Jack shook his head. "We're almost done. Let's finish the job." They agreed to limit radio use to emergencies and kept working, though the forest no longer felt like a workplace. It felt like a trap. That night, in their camper, the radio crackled to life again. This time, the voices were unmistakable. 2 men discussing gathering wood for a fire. Tom grabbed the radio and barked, "Who the hell are you?" Silence. The chatter stopped abruptly. Jack cursed under his breath. "Now they know we're here." Sleep was impossible. Around midnight, Mike shook Tom awake, his face pale. "Someone's outside." Tom heard it too, soft footsteps crunching on gravel, circling the camper. His hand fumbled for his gun, but it wasn't loaded. The ammunition was buried in his pack, useless. The door handle rattled. Tom's breath caught as the door creaked open, inch by inch. Then came the scratching, long, deliberate drags along the metal exterior. 4 agonizing minutes passed. Finally, Jack nodded toward the door. "I'll check it out." He crept forward, flashlight trembling. Just as he reached the threshold, the door burst open. A figure lunged, knife flashing. Jack staggered back, blood spraying from a gash across his face. He crumpled to the floor, clutching his cheek. Before Tom could react, a second man appeared, wild-eyed and ragged, kicking Jack's head with brutal force. Mike sprang into action, tackling the knife-wielding attacker. They grappled until the second man bolted into the night. The first attacker scrambled to his feet and followed, vanishing into the forest's embrace. Tom dragged Jack to his feet, blood soaking his shirt. They stumbled to the truck and sped down the mountain, the 2-hour drive to the hospital a blur of pain and fear. Jack's face was a ruin, the cut so deep it severed nerves, leaving his right eye permanently damaged. They reported the attack, but the police found nothing. No tracks, no cabin, no sign of the men. 2 weeks later, as the rest of the crew wrapped up the job, they found another logger, Pete, bound and gagged in a ditch. He'd been brutalized, left for dead. No arrests were made. The mountain kept its secrets. Tom still logs, but he's never alone now. The forest, once a place of solace, holds a darkness he can't escape. He carries a loaded gun, but it's not the trees he fears. It's the shadows between them, and the whispers that still echo in his dreams.